So I was at my brother's place last weekend, and I was cleaning because I'm moving. My brothers and his girlfriend are coming back after several months away. I was house sitting through the winter, and I was cleaning. And I missed a few spots. And my girlfriend came over, and she noticed I was a little discombobulated, I guess, chaotic. And she almost brought me to tears. And she just said, "Babe, you're not on the run anymore. Why are you rushing?" And yeah, it was in that moment I realized that I wasn't on the run and I didn't have to hide from anything, specifically my own emotions and feelings. And so it's been 6 months since I've been diagnosed with depression, and that video is, I think, right here. Maybe it goes here. I don't know. YouTube puts it wherever they want. And I just kind of laid out back then, in I think early September, kind of what I was recognizing in terms of my own physical, mental, psychological health, the steps I had taken to kind of address that and seek help, and just kind of processing aloud. And I just wanted to do this 6-month update, some of the things I've learned over the last 6 months dealing with depression. If you'll find value in that, if you think that might help, stick around and let's get at it. Hi, my name is Kate Madden. Usually I make videos about the transgender experience, specifically for people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. If this is your first time on my channel, take a minute to like the video, subscribe. I hope you'll like the other things I have. If you've been here before, if this is not your first time at the rodeo, so to speak, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me, and the comments you leave and the DMs you send. With regards to DMs, when I published that video about 6 months ago about being depressed, I've never ever received such incredible feedback, both in terms of the intensity and honesty of what I was receiving, but also the volume of feedback I got about that video. The thing I found really interesting about that, though, is that it was almost all in private. It was all DMs. Like, you can go back and you can look at that video, and I'm not sure how many comments there are, there's a handful, but like a fraction of the amount of DMs I got on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and email. And thank you if you shared. My challenge today, if you're watching this, is leave a comment below, because I'm not the only one going through this, and neither are you. And if we normalize the experience, if we normalize medication, if we normalize mental health and discussing mental health, I think it'll be a lot easier for all of us. One of the things that really held me back in seeking out help for the longest time was just that self-talk, that chorus in my brain, just telling me over and over and over, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough for help. I wasn't good enough for good health. I wasn't good enough to look good. I wasn't good enough for friendship. I was a piece of shit. It was really kind of what my interior self-talk was for a long time, especially for a lot of 2020. And it held me back. And it was only when it got so bad that I recognized I needed the help. One of the ways I acted out with that self-talk was really self-sabotage. So, overeating, drinking, over-drinking a lot to excess, financially, just spending money I didn't really have, not exercising. Like, the self-talk was being physically manifested because that's all I thought I was good enough for. A real key area of the self-sabotage for me, and I'm sure it comes through in some of my posts or some of my videos, is just feeling sorry for myself and that sense of grief. Things lost, things I didn't have, I couldn't have anymore, that sort of thing. And yeah, just sitting in that grief, or sitting in that sense of feeling sorry for myself and not doing anything about it. I think also another thing about the grief, or the feeling sorry for myself, is not being accountable for it, for the things that led to it, my own role. in the situation or the series of events that led to that emotion. So yeah, that led me to August, September, and I did something really unfamiliar and uncomfortable, and I sought help. You know, I started talking at first to my siblings, my brother, my sister, my roommate, my friends. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. And I reached out and I asked for help from my doctor, and I was super honest with my doctor, what I was doing, what I was going through, my energy levels. And, you know, I detail it in the other video, and you can go check it out there. You know, I was dealing with my counselor, and I spent several sessions with my counselor over the next few months working on, you know, strategies, tools to really help manage through depression. Asking for help was hard, but it was so worth it. And, you know, if you're sitting there thinking you're not worth the help or you're not good enough for help, just pick up the phone, send out a text, send out a Facebook message to someone you know, someone you love, someone who loves you, because they love you more than you know. So I had to commit to a year of antidepressants in dealing with my doctor. And that was fine. I understood, you know, why he needed that. He explained it from a physiological perspective, and I understood that. Part of my job is explaining drugs to employers, plan sponsors, they're called employers. I manage health and dental plans throughout Western Canada, and so I have a really good understanding of the pharmaceutical landscape, and I'm going to use the brand names of the drugs, but I'm taking the generic version, and there really is no difference between brand name and generic drugs. You know, don't fall for what you're being told. It's the same thing. But for the ease of use, I'll just use the brand names. So the first antidepressant that he put me on was Lexapro, and I loved it. It was great. Like, it was like instantly the fog cleared, and I was like, why wasn't I on this years ago? You know, the first week or two, absolutely had nausea. I switched it from taking it at night to taking it in the morning. While it worked, it had a really hard side effect on me, and that was it caused pretty intense insomnia. I live by the ocean, if you can hear the seagulls going. And the insomnia was really, really hard. Like, I felt like I was sleeping in shifts. I could only sleep for an hour or two at a time, and then I'd be up for an hour or two. And thankfully, I was only working part-time during that period. So, you know, I was able to manage that, and I could get up at, you know, 7:30 or whatever, work for a couple of hours, pass out, work for a couple more hours. And, you know, I had the autonomy in my schedule that I could do that. The other thing is, when I did fall asleep, super vivid dreams, vivid dreams, which I thought was really interesting. Not always enjoyable, but really, you know, dreams that you would wake up and just be like, was that real? Did that just happen? So Inception come to life, I guess. If Lexapro works for you, great, and I know it does work for some people, but for me it didn't, and I had to switch because of the insomnia. So he put me on Prozac, my doctor, which, you know, is a pretty common drug. It's been around for a long time, and like, it works. Like, I don't think it quite worked as effectively as Lexapro in terms of, like, from an efficacy perspective, it wasn't as quick. But, you know, once the half-life kicked in, it was in my body. Yeah, like, my energy levels are good. You know, like, sadness is there, but depression isn't about sadness. Like, that's what I've really learned over the last 6 months. You know, it's not something you volunteer for, and it isn't necessarily about being sad. But yeah, energy levels are really what I maintain, like, I follow, and yeah, my energy levels are good. A couple of side effects I have noticed is weight gain. I feel bloated most of the time. You know, I'm walking a lot. You know, my diet is, I'd say, better than it was, but I'm still gaining weight. And by gaining weight, I'm not talking about like one is better than the other. It's like, I'm not feeling good about where the weight is being gained, and it's like my knees and my hips and my ankles are sore. And I don't like how that feels. So, because I do walk. So it's just not pleasant, and I think that's something that I'm kind of coming to realize now. I think I've been on Prozac about 3 months now. The other thing I've noticed with Prozac is my sex drive is gone. I mean, like, it was already gone because of the Cipro that I take, the testosterone blocker. But yeah, like, there's no libido at all. Um, and that's frustrating. Like, that's not where I want to be. Like, it's one thing to block the testosterone, but still experience sex drive. It's quite another thing to just not feel anything. Like, the difference I think between the testosterone blocker is, like, I recognize what I'm missing. Like, I recognize that male sex drive and it's gone, and that's fantastic. With the Prozac, the sex drive that I was developing, yeah, it's kind of fizzled out, and I don't like it. Like, that's one thing that it's not causing me unhappiness per se, but I'm not happy with it. Yeah. So I can live in the ambiguity of that. The trade-off is I feel good. Like, so, um, yeah. The final piece from a pharmaceutical perspective that I take is Klonopin. It's an anti-anxiety medication. Uh, it's a benzo whatever, I don't know, but it is addictive. So I only get it in small doses in a few pills, and I'm only supposed to take it when, like, those coping skills, the tools I have to deal with an anxiety attack aren't working. So, yesterday I was about to get on a call in the morning, 9:30, and I felt an anxiety attack building. I was just like, oh, fuck. I had like 15, 20 minutes before my call. You can hear the breathing. I tried to, kind of self-soothe, and I knew I didn't have time. And so, one of the really important things that I've learned through this whole process is self-compassion. And, really, like, you can go watch Kristen Neff or read her books or what have you, but, real quickly, like, self-compassion is essentially showing yourself the kindness you would show someone else. And, in that moment, I realized that the kindest thing I could do for myself was go take a Klonopin and, get through the morning, basically. And so, yeah, like, the anxiety attack didn't develop. It did pass, those feelings quickly. I was able to be engaged in the meeting, attend to the things I needed to attend to that morning. Went for a walk, had a coffee, and I dealt with it. Like, I was a little unfocused and scattered in the afternoon, but I wasn't halted in my tracks. The one thing I did notice was later on in the day, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, I was exhausted though. Like, just felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. So that that's not unusual post-anxiety attack though. The other thing about Klonopin is you're not supposed to use it with alcohol because it works on the same receptors as a depressant that alcohol does. And so it magnifies the impact. And I wanted to see what that was like, just, out of curiosity, experiment a little bit. And so I tried it, and I do not recommend. So that was not a fun night. But yeah, I did try it. And really I was in a period of, some pretty intense self-sabotage with regards to drinking. But you also, part of that self-compassion is looking at yourself with that kindness and not with judgment. And, I did it. I wanted to see, my self-talk was out of control. And, I learned. The thing that little pharmacological experiment taught me was that there's patterns in my self-sabotage and my self-abuse. And I began to see it just in terms of how I was kind of conducting myself in the world. A really important thing is, you get to find out what you're looking for and if you want it. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was looking for rock bottom. I just, I was really struggling with my employment status. I was, working part-time with really great people, but it wasn't enough. And my child support and dealing with legal stuff, mounting debt. And I wasn't giving up, but, I was really, really struggling with that day to day. Even though I was still getting up and I was still going to work and I was still doing all that, I was being self-destructive and looking for that rock bottom. I never hit rock bottom. Well, I did hit a pile of rocks though, but it wasn't quite rock bottom. I could see rock bottom in this moment. And so yeah, I'd been out at the bar. I wasn't drunk, I somewhere between 4 and 6 beers and some nachos. I couldn't drive, but I wasn't drunk. I got a Lyft, Uber, home. And it was really weird because the guy started taking the wrong way. I told him where I was living, and he went in the opposite direction. And I was like, what's going on? And, we went one city block, and I was like, this, and, confirmed the address with him. He's like, yeah, that's where we're going. So I was like, okay. Drove another city block, and I was like, no, this is not turning out well. And so, I was like, hey, you're going the wrong direction. And what he did was one of the busiest streets in Vancouver. Thankfully, it was, middle of the night, so there's no one there. He did a full U-turn across 4 lanes of traffic. And I'm talking roller coaster U-turn. And I deal with car sickness. I get car sick really easily. So I felt my stomach just, it was not good. And, for the next 15 minutes, I was sitting in the back, breaking out in cold sweats, trying not to throw up in the car. And I got home. So I got home, I kicked open the door. And it was I just hurled. But I was wearing heels, and it was a little wet, and it was this motion of flying out of the car, throwing up, and landing on my knee, ripping my nylons, and throwing up at the same time. And with the force of gravity, having my face fall right into the puke. It was gross. One of the grossest things I've ever experienced. And it was totally self-inflicted. So I went in the house, cleaned myself up a little bit, and I tweeted about it. And, I tweet about a lot of stuff. If you follow me on Twitter, especially if I've been drinking, I just tweet random things, stream of consciousness, sports stuff, religious stuff, trans stuff. I'm all over the map. And maybe that's why I don't have a lot of followers on Twitter. People don't know what to do with me, but I also have a lot of work stuff there. And, because of my line of business, I had met this doctor online. We've been mutual Twitter followers. I've never actually met him, but, we've exchanged DMs and stuff in the past about, the world we live in. And I around this time, Dr. Markland was on the news a lot. Like I was seeing him on CBC all the time, talking about the vaccination program, the rollout in Alberta, some of the issues with the rollout, the policies, but most importantly, the impact on patient care and the delivery of patient care in Alberta. And having lived in Alberta for 20 years, 13 of those in Edmonton, I've always enjoyed following him because he posts beautiful photos of Edmonton. And my memory of Edmonton is not that it's beautiful, but that it was cold and that I was really much happier in Calgary. It's midnight, I don't know, 1 o'clock, 11:30, whatever. And I tweet about this, puke on my face. And, here's this well-respected doctor jumping in and just saying, whoa, are you okay? And I hadn't quite got it to the point of self-reflection. I was still kind of in the moment. I could still smell the puke. And, what it made me pause was that I needed to reframe my relationship with alcohol. And so, he wished me strength and resolve. And I'm grateful because I needed to hear that in that moment. And, from someone who I was seeing on TV and here on Twitter, and, not a great moment. So thank you, Dr. Markland. I appreciate the doctor's orders at the time. They were helpful. So I realized that while I was looking for rock bottom, I didn't want rock bottom. And I realized that I needed to end my isolation because, for about 3 months there, and part of it was definitely COVID related, pandemic related, I was really isolating myself socially, physically, and the only place I was going was the bar. Because that self-talk, was really driving me, and I was avoiding processing emotion. Depression sucks. Like it is this thing that's there. It's there every day, and you just are living with it. But emotions can be signposts. They can be, foghorns in the dark, where they can guide you. And anxiety, depression, at least in my experience, and I'm not talking about treatment-resistant depression or people I know who really struggle with something different than what I have. But for me, like I began to recognize those feelings and emotions and the energy as something to direct me out of it. Specifically, I didn't like how I felt. And so I was able to take those steps to process through the emotion, to walk through it, to sit through it. And, negativity isn't always bad, in that you can learn from it, grow from it, you self-reflect, and you take the necessary steps to, have a more positive outcome the next time. The great gift about transition is you get to make your own life. Gender transition allows you to choose so much from your experience, your expression, your name, your friends, even your family. As you learn how to love yourself more effectively, and also I think as you learn to receive love, and especially receive it the way you need it. Some people just can't love you the way you need it, and they don't join you on the journey. Like any period of growth, though, it's uncomfortable, and I think that's what I was really experiencing, was just this massive discomfort of working through my depression. So I wanted to start saying yes to opportunity, start saying yes to happiness. I wanted to say yes to health. So the first thing, I needed to reframe my relationship with alcohol. And this came around the same time as Dry January, and some friends in Calgary were doing a fundraiser. And so I participated in that, and, I did Dry January. And, it was just what I needed. Like, I was able to just kind of pause. like alcohol does change your brain, and especially that detox period, like as you remove alcohol from your system, your brain does things, and there's a point, I don't know, a few days later where you really notice the clarity. And so yeah, I enjoyed January a lot. In terms of creating that life I wanted, I needed to take the steps to do what I wanted. And I love performing. Like, I'm a musician. There's videos of me playing music on here and on Instagram. And I do love to perform. I get energy from being on stage. And something I've wanted to do for a long time is stand up and improv. And so I signed up for an improv class. I started writing stand up. And, tonight, actually, at time of recording, March 19th, 2021, I am doing my very first improv show tonight. So, I'm really looking forward to that. The final thing that I wanted to do to make myself uncomfortable was just to put myself out there and date. And by dating, I mean being open to dating, like to relationship, open to being vulnerable. And I think the vulnerability piece is something that had been missing in my previous dating experiences over the last couple of years. So yeah, I put myself out there and I started dating again. And as I'm going through all this, I get a message from this vice president of sales at an insurance company that I have known for about 10 years. And there's a position available in Vancouver doing what I've done for, 13, 14 years. And do I know anybody? So yeah, what I did though, I took a different approach than I'd previously taken. Every other interview I've had or every other opportunity I've looked at over the last 14, 15 months, I've really, I don't want to say, I've approached it out of desperation, but if you're a hockey player, I was really squeezing the stick. Like, there was a keen sense of need with each of those interviews. And with this, I was just like, hey, I want to know more about your culture first. I want to know more about the organization. And, as well specifically as a trans woman, visible trans woman, I want to know that I'm safe there. And instantly put me in touch with the HR team, and we had a fantastic discussion about diversity, inclusion, equity in the organization, and I learned a lot about the culture of the organization, specifically that it's a not-for-profit. So as I entered dry January, I started interviewing for this job, and I don't know, 4 interviews through late December, early January, 5 interviews, I can't remember, but I got the job. And I got the job, I got the best offer I've ever gotten. And it felt great, really great. At the same time, with dating, I met someone. I met someone who makes me laugh and smile all the time. And someone who makes looking forward to the future and plans with really exciting. And yeah, we're moving in together. It feels great, like really great. Was it a coincidence that, a lot of really great things happened to me when I started to reframe that relationship with self-sabotage? I don't think so. Because, I am good enough and I am worthy of being loved. And, working in the field that I do and earning the money that I do and taking care of my kids and my former spouse and being able to pay my bills for the most part. Doing the things I want to do. Like improv, like stand-up, having fun, creating, I guess it's something I really love doing. So, yeah, depression is not unique to me. I certainly don't have a monopoly on this experience. And if anything, that my previous video taught me, there's a lot of really great stories, really hard stories. People are working through it, people have worked through it, and some people can't work through it. And what I really think is important is in that normalization of discussion of mental health or medication, is we can help each one of us get to the next step. And life always gets better. I think, yeah, self-compassion is something I've really come to understand. Finding comfort in the discomfort, if that makes sense. It's exciting and it feels good. Some moments are hard. My friend Rebecca talks about kind of like battening down the hatches and just letting the storm pass over. And I know that feeling, and it's some days I just gotta just pause, just stop, maybe go for a walk if I can make it, but I just let it pass, let it blow over, and pass through me, and I can process the emotion of it. I'm kind of a problem solver, so it can be hard for me to just vent through it, or experience it and not try to solve it. I just got to sit there. So I'll say that's a work in progress. How's that? But it's the best way for me to get through those days. Depression's not a choice. It happens. There's physiological reasons, chemical reasons, there's all sorts of reasons, and there's lots of science, and I'm not a scientist, and ultimately I don't have time to go read all the latest research. What I do is I read and listen to people who have read that research, and I try to synthesize it so that I can make sense of it. Mental health literacy is part of my professional world, 100%, but I'm invested in it pretty personally, and so I really try to understand the language. I really try to understand the concepts, and then how to apply it to my own life, my own situation, and how to make it through. Yeah, so 6 months. So 6 months with depression. Officially, I mean, I'm sure it's been longer, but at any rate, 6 months. What's next? I think, yeah, it's identifying those patterns, working with those patterns, dealing with those patterns, and trying not to repeat them. One thing that has really just come to light recently for me is, in terms of those patterns, is I have to respond and not react. It's when I react that things kind of go south, and I feel it, and I react, and I feel so right. And I think Brene Brown says it best. It's like, do you want to be right or do you want to get it right? And there you go. I'm left a day later going, what the fuck just happened? I was right. I'm right, but I don't feel right. So, something, I want to work more on that, responding and not reacting. I think above all, what I've really come to learn and appreciate about myself is, that kindness to myself and just being expressive to myself and working through those things, even when I screw up, and just being kind and having compassion for myself. And I've noticed that how I engage with others, how I'm interacting with others, is from a place of kindness and just trying to assume the best in them, assuming the best in their intentions. And that's been great. So thanks for watching. This is a long one. I appreciate it. Maybe I'll do a year-long update. We'll see. If you're not following me on Twitter or Instagram, send me a request over there, or follow me over there. Let's be friends. And again, thank you for being part of this journey with me. Leave a comment below. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the like button, and stick around for the next one. I don't know what it's going to be yet, because I was going to do this in 2 videos, but I put them into one. And so, yeah, stick around for the next video. I'm sure it'll be a banger. And thanks for watching, as always. Here's to life.